Hello everyone. Our topic for today is about designs, test, and revises survey questionnaires. Today's objective: at the end of the lesson, you are expected to design, test, and revise survey questionnaires. But before that, let us study this vocabulary list that we're going to encounter throughout the lessons. Number one is questionnaire. It is a written document containing questions and other types of items designed to solicit information appropriate to analysis. Next, survey research, the collection of information from a sample of individuals through their responses to questions or statements. So for you to better understand what is a survey research, this is an example of a survey research questionnaire, right? Next is the word respondent. It is a person who provides data in a survey research. This is the person who will answer your research questions. So let's start. What is a questionnaire? So a questionnaire is a structured series of questions designed to collect primary data from respondents. A well-designed questionnaire motivates respondents to provide accurate and complete information, which is very helpful in attaining the survey's objective. So it is very important for a researcher to know how to design the questionnaires. This questionnaire plays a vital role in attaining the objective of your study. So in lesson number 4, we have studied the kinds of reports. So these various kinds of reports are dependent on the objective of the researcher. In its kind of report, there are instruments used to gather data. One of the ways to gather data is through a survey. It is by using a survey questionnaire. It is through a questionnaire that the researcher will be able to attain the objective of the study. However, as a researcher, you must know the right questions that you will use to get the information you need. Designing a questionnaire is quite challenging. So we're going to study how you'll be able to overcome these challenges. Remember, class, that practice makes perfect. Next, so there are some steps in designing a questionnaire. Number one, you have to determine the research problem or the target information. So without a research problem, you cannot create a questionnaire. Your questionnaire depends a lot on your research problem. Through your research problem, you'll be able to create these questionnaires. However, you have to make your questionnaires appropriate so that you'll be able to get your target information. Next, choose the type of questions and method of administration. How are you going to administer your questionnaire? So you can either administer it through written form or using email, telephone interview, or personal interview. Next, make sure that the sequence of the questions is effective. It is very important that you arrange your questions according to how you need them, according to their importance. You have to arrange them in chronological order. Then you have to test the questionnaire and revise if needed. You cannot conduct your research or your survey without first testing them. If you have some friends, about 10 people, you can conduct this test to make sure that there are no errors, there are no mistakes Otherwise, you cannot get the appropriate data you wanted from your respondents. So number one, you have to write short and simple questions. This is an example. Given the current trend of more hits, more home runs, longer games in general, and more injuries in baseball today, do you think that steroid use should continue to be banned even though it is not enforced? What's the problem with the stem of the questions? The question is long. Okay, and because it is long, it can be confusing. There are some elements or factors in these questions which they are not needed, so they they will make your respondents feel confused about this question. So how are you going to better this question? So you go straight to the point. Steroid use has both positive and negative effects on baseball. Do you think that steroid use should be banned? So it is direct. It is very simple and very understandable. Next, number two, avoid leading questions. Wording that influences respondents to consider a subject in a weighted manner or inject a preference or opinion. Leading questions would mean giving the hint to your respondents to answer the way you expect them to answer, so that is being biased. All right. So example, do you hate the president of the Philippines? So why do you think it is leading? Because the question itself includes an opinion or word. Right? Next, who do you think of when you hear COVID-19? Is it China for letter A, letter B, President Duterte, letter C, Chinese, and letter D, lockdown? Why do you think it is leading? Because it forces the respondent to answer one of these choices, even if none of them comes to mind. So remember this, no to leading questions. So better question, what makes our product better than our competitor's product? So go straight to the point so that you'll be able to get your target information. The third one, appropriately open-ended and closed-ended questions. Use open-ended questions when responses need to be elaborated by the respondents for exhaustive and comprehensive data gathering. Open-ended questions would mean it is in an essay form wherein the respondent needs to explain so that you will be able to get more information from your respondents. They're more suited to exploratory research that looks to describe a subject based on trends and patterns. Close-ended questions are popular because they provide greater uniformity or responses and are easily processed compared to open-ended questions. Yes, definitely, because close-ended questions are very finite. All right. However, close-ended questions, the response categories should be exhaustive and mutually exclusive. In other words, all possible options should be provided. So for you to better understand this open-ended questions and close-ended questions, I have this example for you. Open-ended question must be answered in an essay form, while close-ended questions, you get the finite answers. All right? Next, example, why do you play sports? So this is a close-ended question. Number one, enjoyment. Number two, health. Number three, friends. Or number four, others. So the question is very definite. It gets appropriate answers. Number four, question must be non-threatening and attempt to evoke the truth. Example, who do you think consume more cigarettes, you or your friends? So it is a threatening question because when a respondent is concerned about the consequences of answering a question in a particular manner, there is a good possibility that the answer will not be truthful. We wanted a truthful answer from our respondent. So avoid uh, threatening questions. Okay? So questions clarity. Avoid ambiguities and vague words. Avoid using the words usual, regular, or normal. Example, what is your number of serving of eggs in a typical day? What's the problem with the stem of the question? How many eggs constitute a serving? What does a typical day mean? So it is vague. It constitutes a lot of questions on the minds of your respondents. So to better this question, you could make use of this question. On days you eat eggs, how many eggs do you usually consume? So in this case, you will be able to get a definite answer from your respondents. Do you watch television regularly? So it is again a vague questions. So vague questions are difficult to answer. What's the meaning of regularly? So how to better this question? How often do you watch television? All right. Next, don't use double-barreled question. Ask one question at a time. Avoid asking two questions. Imposing unwarranted assumptions or hidden contingencies. Whenever you use and on a question or a statement, check if it is double-barreled. So I'll give an example for you to better understand. Example, do you find the classes you took during your first semester in senior high school more demanding and interesting than your junior high school classes? So it is answerable by yes and no. So how would someone respond if they felt their senior high school classes were more demanding, but also more boring than their junior high school classes, or less demanding but more interesting? Because the question combines demanding and interesting, there is no way to respond yes to one criterion but no to the other. So again, avoid double-barreled questions. No to double-barreled questions. All right, so how are you going to better that questions? Do you find the classes you took during your first semester in senior high school more demanding than your junior high school classes? So it is more appropriate. It is, you can get the answer you wanted from your respondents. So put in mind that you should avoid double-barreled questions. Number 7, clearly define the responses scale, dimension, or continuum. When using a response scale, clearly define the dimension or continuum respondents are to use in the ratings task. So I'll give you the example. Responses categories make them logical and meaningful, right? Not do not make use of the following: many, some, a few, very few, none. So we're going to better it. Do a bipolar or uniform rating scale. Bipolar measures both direction and intensity of an attitude, while a unipolar scale measures one concept with varying degrees of intensity. I'll give you the example. All right, an example of a unipolar satisfaction scale is not at all. These are the choices: satisfied, slightly satisfied, moderately satisfied, very satisfied, and completely satisfied. A unipolar Likert scale question type indicates a respondent to think of the presence or absence of a quality or a trait. So, example of bipolar scale. We might, for example, have the following options, right? Very good, fairly good, equally good and bad, fairly bad, very bad. These options form a typical 5 steps bipolar scale. The number of options may vary substantially depending on many factors, but all bipolar scales are essentially like this one. So let us differentiate unipolar measures and bipolar measures through this example. So unipolar measures start from 0. No natural midpoint, goes to an extreme. So what are the choices you can make when making a Likert scale type of questionnaire? So you can make use of this following examples. Not at all, slightly, moderately, very, extremely. So there are 5 choices. All you need to do is to arrange them. Next, bipolar measures. It starts at extreme. Negative has a natural midpoint, goes to opposite extreme, positive. So these are the choices. You have 7 choices, which are extremely, moderately, slightly, neither, nor slightly, moderately, extremely. So guys, these are the example of unipolar and bipolar measures. Right? Number 8, minimize presuppositions. An assumption about the world whose truth is taken for granted. Answering a question implies accepting its presuppositions. A respondent may be led to provide an answer even its presuppositions are false. So presuppositions means your assumptions about your target information. So I'll give you the example. Are you a DDS or DILA1? Presupposes that one of the alternative is true. What are your usual hours of work? Problem. Does respondent have usual hours of work? How are you going to better those questions? What are your usual hours of work, or do you have usual hours of work? So next, remember class that each question should have a specific purpose or should not be included in the questionnaire. So it is very important that you know what your target information is. Otherwise, you will not be able to get your target information when conducting your research. So let us discuss more about open-ended questions. When do we use these open-ended questions? Okay? So open-ended questions are best used for breaking the ice in an interview. When respondent own words are important, when the researchers does not know how to conduct the research in or wanted to get more information from the respondents. So we make use of the open-ended questions because you'll be able to generate more information because it is done in an essay form. You can get more information on how the respondent felt or his observations on a certain things. Alright, so this is an example. What changes do you recommend for the school to do to help students perform better? This is an example of an open-ended question. So, close-ended questions is best used for collecting rank order data when all responses choices are known, when quantitative statistical tool the result are desired. So close-ended questions are usually used with quantitative research, while open-ended questions are used when conducting qualitative research. So this is an example of close-ended question. In which of the following do you live? A house, an apartment, or a condo unit? Next, other forms close-ended questions. Example, Likert scale. Best used for assessing a person's opinion and feelings about something. So, close-ended questions are used when you are soliciting the opinions and the feelings of your respondents about about a product or about a service. Next, other forms close-ended questions. Example of that is please circle the way you feel about the following. Your choices would be disagree, 1 for disagree, and 5 for agree. Next, multiple choice best used for when there are finite number of options. This is usually used, as I said a while ago, for qualitative research wherein you are looking for a definite answer. Okay, example of which of the following best describe your current civil status, right? Single, married, widowed, or divorced. This is an example. How likely would you recommend the current strand you are enrolled in to your friend? Not at all likely, extremely likely. So these are the example of the one I have explained earlier. You have to choose between from number 1 up to 10. Next, ranking questions. When do you use ranking questions? When ordering answer choices by way of preferences. This allows you to not only understand how respondents feel about each answer option, but it also helps you understand each one's relative popularity. So how are you going to conduct this? You can make use of this example. So, example of that, rank the following subjects in order of preferences. 1 being your favorite and 5 being your least favorite. So, this is how you are to conduct it. So, you now have your questions and you know which questions to use. Let's arrange your questions. Are you ready? So number 1, adopt a general organizational pattern that complements a survey's research objective. There are 2 patterns to make use of. Number 1, a funnel pattern begins with broad questions, followed by progressively narrower or more specific ones. Number 2, inverted pattern. Narrowly focused questions are followed by more general ones. Topically related questions should be grouped together. A researcher should group together questions pertinent to a single topic, then move to another topic. It is easier for the answer questions this way. Easy to answer questions should be placed first. Easy questions serve as motivation, right? Remember this. This is very important. Your question number 1 should always be the easiest one to answer. Next, ordering your questions. Number 4, questions should be ordered to avoid establishing a response bias. Avoid biased questions. Right? This is an example. A tendency of a respondent to answer all closed questions the same way, regardless of content. Example, a respondent check, somewhat agree to all. Right? So, how are you going to test whether your questionnaires are appropriate to your research topic? So find 5 to 10 people from your target group to test whether your questionnaires are appropriate. Right? Test some of your friends. Ask them to complete the survey while thinking out loud. Take note of their opinions and feedback. For example, some of your friends have this feedback. I don't understand these questions. So you have to bear that in mind. Why does your respondent do not understand your question? Maybe it is confusing. Maybe it is leading. Next, I can't find the next section. So you did not arrange them according to their importance. The option I want isn't available. So it is very important to test conduct first your questionnaire before the actual implementation or conducting of your own survey questionnaire. This is getting boring. Why is it so long? So maybe your questionnaires are quite long. As I said a while ago, no to long questionings because they are confusing. Next, why is it asking about that? What that makes me uncomfortable. So avoid threatening questions. Make sure that your respondents will answer the question as easy as possible. Do not make them feel hard, or do not make them feel boring in answering long questions, right? So these are some practical tips on testing your questionnaires. Observe how they complete the survey. Note their hesitations or where they made mistakes in answering. This is an indication that the survey questions and layout are not clear enough and needs improvement. So this is an example of some confusing questions. You have to be certain, you have to be definite on how they will answer your questionnaire. You have to make sure that you craft your instructions. Are they going to encircle? Are they going to underline the choices, or will they um, blacken all the circles? So you have to be definite in it. Okay. Next, make improvements based on the result. All questionnaires need an introduction. Be sure to have one. Introduction would mean your directions. Your instruction is very important so that your respondents know exactly what to do and how they will answer your questionnaires. Next, it is useful to begin every questionnaire with basic instructions. Next, the format of a questionnaire is as important as the wording and ordering. Be sure that it is spread out and uncluttered. So the arrangement of how you type them, make sure that it is eye-catching, it is attractive enough for them to make them engage in answering your questions. Physical aspects such as page layout, font type and size, question spacing, and the type of paper should be considered. Always check on this. So these are very basic when typing some questionnaire. Make sure that your margin is right, the spacing is correct, right? And the font size as well. So I'm done with it. I just hope class you have learned something from our discussions. So for your activity, this is the direction. Here are some survey questions from a questionnaire. Examine them closely and identify whether they are acceptable or not. Write A for acceptable, or you might as well complete the word write acceptable if you think the questionnaires are acceptable. For any non-acceptable question, revise the question to make it acceptable. So there are wrongly written questionnaires among your this task. So if your answer is non-acceptable, therefore you have to rewrite it and correct it. Okay, you may write your answer on your answer sheet, which I will be collected next meeting. Okay, so take for example, your answer is non-acceptable. So you have to write the question. For example, the question is, was the school facility not unclean? So revision, you have to revise it. Write the questions, the wrong question, and then you need to revise it. So there are three answers for non-acceptable. Okay, first you have to write non-acceptable and then rewrite the questions and then write your revision. So what was the revision? How would you rate the cleanliness of the school facility? So next, how awesome is the service provided? Is it acceptable or non-acceptable? If it is non-acceptable, how are you going to correct it? All right, I'm giving you some time to think and answer these questions one by one. All right, class. For question number 2, where do you enjoy drinking milk tea? Is it acceptable or non-acceptable? How would you rate the preparedness and rescue mission? Is it acceptable or non-acceptable? What device do you usually use to check your email? A. Computer. B. Mobile phone. C. Tablet. D. iPad. Is it acceptable or non-acceptable? Right? So this is question number 5. Is it acceptable or non-acceptable? This is question number 6. Is the stem of the question acceptable or non-acceptable? This is number 7. Right? Is it acceptable or non-acceptable? This is number 8. Right? This is number 9. And this is number 10. Okay? So class, write your answers on your notebook. We will check it next meeting. Next, for your activity number 2, make up several 5 to 10 questionnaire items that measures the student's feelings regarding the action of the school towards waste management. Write your answers on a long bond paper. So let's settle for 5 questions. What is the topic? So the topic, your feelings about waste management of senior high school in Magalang stand alone to. Right? You have to craft some questions regarding waste management of senior high school standalone 2. We'll settle for 5 questions only. Right? Note, each question that you make will be scored from 1 to 5 based on the rubric given below. This means you have a chance to get a maximum of 50 points if all the questions you made get 5 points. But as I said, we'll settle for 5 questions. Right? So this will be the rubrics I will be using to grade your questionnaires. Right? For 5, the question is clear and precise, collectively allowing for detailed, unambiguous, and meaningful answers. The question is interpreted in the same way by respondents to be able to get 5. That is how you should construct your questionnaires. All right, so you read the rest of the rubrics. Okay, again, class, only 5 questionnaires. I'll be looking forward for your answers. Please write your answers on your notebook. All right, not on a long bond paper, but on your notebook first. Okay, we will correct them when class starts again. All right, I just hope class you have learned something. If there are some questions, I'm willing to answer them when we meet again. Or you can continue watching this video. So, good day, class. I hope you have learned something new again today. Thank you so much. I'll see you when the class opens again. Bye, everyone.